Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and we are back. It seems like so long since we were doing a match preview. Football is actually back. I'm here with the lads, Martin and George, who looks like he is in the darkest of dungeons possible, but he's got that light shining on
Mm.
his head. Um,
Paranormal activity all over again. It's paranormal activity
Cost a
all
few quid,
over
this
again.
lads.
it's Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
But yeah, great to have you on board. And Martin, in particular, mate, great to have you back on the show after a little bout of ill health, mate. So great to have you back. How are you feeling now? Fighting fit?
Yeah, fighting fit. Lost a bit of weight, not in the ideal way, of course, but yeah, no, it's definitely good to be back and just getting to talk about Villa again, which has been a long time. It feels like a long time since Villa played anyway, so maybe a long time away from the podcast, plus uh, a long time talk about Villa. And plus, I just want to mention, obviously, I lived somewhere before that. It's Australia Day. So, fair dinkum to Adamski. So,
Yes, good. And I messaged Adamski earlier. I know he's in the chat. I've sent your prize, your winning prize today. So sorry for the delay, but it's on its way, mate. So yeah, thank you very much. And George, I can't remember I think you might have been on the last match preview. I can't remember when that was, but it's so long ago. But how are you doing, mate? Good to have you back.
Yeah, evening everyone. Yeah, it has been a while, mate. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you, Rich, the last time we come on. It does feel like a while since we've had a game, doesn't it? And yeah,
Yes,
been itching,
yeah.
itching to have a little chat again about the Villa boys.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many in the chat already. Guys, make sure you do hit the like button. As we always say, subscribe if you're new to the channel. We are, I think, at last count, I think we're 13 away from 3,300 subscribers. So we're almost getting a new graphic. I know Mark has got one ready for us. So yeah, we're almost there with the graphic. On the road to 4K. So yeah, do please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You'll have seen we've got new shows. We do the lunchtime live, obviously transfer talk, talking tactics is going to be back. All those shows for you guys. So make sure you like, subscribe, and yeah, of course, get involved in the comments. So loads flying in already. Adamski says he's top of the group. Yeah, first comment. Gary said, hi everyone, got through this one and we have a chance to get through this one. Sorry, we have a chance to go all the way. Absolutely. Rub is in the house as well. Good evening, mate. Lewis, good evening to you. Rachel, great to have you on board. Yeah, Adamski, sorry, mate. I know you've been missing a lot of shows, but we're back now. We're back now on our evening, your morning, so that's great. Rod, we'll get into that comment in a second. We'll talk about all the players, potential injuries, all that kind of stuff, rumors, etc. Michael's in the house. Deontay, happy Friday. Friday evening? Friday Eve. I get you.
mm.
Hope is a 25 calendar. Yeah, I know. Maybe the ignore the first month, ignore January. It's back through to Feb. Starts in February. PJJ's in the house. Great to have you on board. Michael says you're in the cellar of Aston Hall, George.
Here we go. I was waiting for all this.
I think the seller across the hall actually pays their electricity bills, though.
Yeah. David said that he feels Villa have a rest. It takes ages to get up to speed, so fears Friday, but Newcastle a big bounce back. We'll talk about that because obviously I mentioned it on in the lunchtime show yesterday about maybe Chelsea having that momentum after that victory on Tuesday night, but we'll see. Jam Jack's in the house as well. Yeah, so about the women's team. Yeah, we'll maybe talk about that as well, maybe later on. Man with the golden gun is in the house. Up the Villa, lads. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to have you on board, mate. Good to see you in the chat. So yeah, let's. I guess let's talk before we get into Chelsea. Loads to talk about with Chelsea game. You know, as I say, FA Cup and all that. A little bit on the transfer window because I haven't actually spoken to you two boys. I know me and Kev have had a couple of chats about the transfers and potential rumours and stuff. I know George, you're in our kind of group chat and stuff. I guess you're not too kind of panicked either way, really. But how do you see this transfer window panning out for us? Do you see us making moves for, say, Morgan Rogers, or I know Jonathan Rowe's been some kind of linked today? Potential players going out, Dendonka, one or two others. Where do you see it at the moment with Villa in the transfer window?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, really. I mean, not really much has happened, has it? Not just for us, but for most clubs. I think obviously what's happened to Everton and happened to Forest, obviously the ongoing talk about what's going on at City. I think everyone's just thought, you know what, it's not worth the risk at the minute, because obviously there's a big clampdown going on, and it's this what do you call it, profit and sustainability thing is really rearing its head. So I think everyone's just thought, you know what, the three that come up look like they're going down, and the rest of us can kind of just, no one's desperate, are they? I mean, Villa are a club, we've got a fair bit on the line here. We're looking at trying to get in the Champions League, but maybe we're all playing it a bit tight, and now the rules are being enforced. I think everyone's just kind of got cold feet. So maybe you're looking at a little dash at the end where everyone sort of, tries to get their ducks in a row and get something late on. But, this is the quietest January I can ever remember.
Yeah, exactly. And Martin, do you think that is the case where, clubs are, I guess, looking at keeping with what they've got more so than not, not necessarily making these panic buys? I mean, we've seen this gradual sort of setup with January where clubs are less inclined to make these panic buys unless they're going to drop out the league or whatever. But do you think it might bite us in the backside with this? We're in fourth position at the moment. We're 5 points off top. We're kind of, I guess, 8 points or 7 points away from, the top six. Top six. Do you see it like, I guess, the gap closing between the teams below us if we don't improve, and then maybe us losing grip on sort of the top positions? How do you see it?
In terms of like obviously with the transfers and all, I'm in complete agreement with George where it's like it is the quietest month for because of the punishments that are being handed out, and of course Everton are getting a second breach, but there's no word on how many points they're getting deducted. I think the rumor mill going around that they're going to get another 4 or 7 points. I don't know about Forest. I haven't seen anything about them, what points they're getting just yet. But and then in terms of like the gaps and everything, I think the drop off was eventually going to happen. Now, obviously, we haven't dropped off completely, which is a good thing. So, like, there's still plenty of games for us to get ourselves back in. And I'm still I'm not overly excited, like like a lot of fans. Don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying the season that we're in the top four. We're not that far off, like a title race, and no one's really considering us, which is under the radar, something that George really loves. And of course, like and then the teams below us, obviously, certain players coming back for Spurs, Madison, Van der Ven, Romero, like these players are coming back from their injuries. West Ham are starting to look good. I'm not really in fear of Man United because their sort of thing going at the minute is win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. And then, over this course of the season, and I was looking through the fixtures, there is no easy game in the Premier League regardless, but obviously we've done so well to be where we are at the moment. And I think fourth is, in my opinion, is the best scenario because when you have the experience of Liverpool and Man City's and title run-ins, they just don't lose, especially Man City, because when it gets to like February, March, April, May, Man City don't lose. Like there's not even a draw in there. It's literally they just keep winning. And that's why Man City are so close to the title because other teams can't seem to punish Man City when they lose or do a slip and they don't get punished for it. They kind of get away with it a little bit where if we slip, we do get punished because it's just the way football goes, and it's a game of what ifs, buts, and maybes. But I personally think that fourth is realistic now. Of course, I've obviously improved my stance with, so I said finishing sixth, but I think fourth is well achievable. If we just bring in one or two players that just for a competitive drive in the team, not necessarily going to get a big name like from the Bundesliga, like Jeremy Frimpong, which I know a lot of people would love in the club. But I think getting people in like a Morgan Rogers, a Jonathan Rowe, who's obviously previously been linked, Florian Neuhaus from Mönchengladbach, which of course the club's not currently in talks with them. But I do think that it wouldn't be a bad sign to make us like another Tielemans to unlock that sort of like low block teams. I think if we brought in that, it'd be real quality in the squad and it would improve the squad and competitive drive and other players. So that's what you need in squads to be able to try and get the top four, which would help us financially in profit and sustainability, and of course in financial fair play with revenue earnings as well.
Yeah, no, you make some good points. It's just, I guess teams are showing that they've got to operate within these rules. I mean, Ahmed says, I will go through all the comments, but Ahmed said we've got this far with the team we've got, so can't see why we can't keep going. We have to keep faith with the players that got us here, and that I guess is the way, George, isn't it? I guess as football fans, we want to see continuous improvement. And we want us to, it makes it more interesting about transfers and things like that. But with the financial situation as it is at the moment, with the rules as they are at the moment, it is a case of cutting your cloth accordingly with regards to what you can do, and then those expectations that supporters have.
Yeah, absolutely. It just, I don't know, like since our last game, it just feels like without us even kicking a ball, the rug's been pulled underneath us, and like there's a bit of all of a sudden, like I know the other teams had a game in hand. City had that great comeback win at Newcastle. You saw the big celebration at the end, and you're thinking, oh, here we go. This Pep's giving it the big one. De Bruyne's back. They're looking good. Then Arsenal smashed Palace 5-0. Then Liverpool smashed Bournemouth 4-0. And you're just thinking, God, that draw at Everton all of a sudden is looking like a really bad result now. But I think I agree with you, Martin. We've done well to stay with them for this long, haven't we? And maybe we need to start picking our battles and realizing that it is Tottenham and possibly a West Ham that is our battle. But as for the transfers, it's really bad timing for us, isn't it? Just as we're there, where was the talk of this last year, profit and sustainability, when Newcastle got in the Champions League? It just feels like all of a sudden Villa are on the cusp of a wave, and bang, you can't
They're
sign
needing
no
to
one
sell
now.
players though now. I
What
think
you've got.
because of it though.
Hey,
I think they're now needing to sell players because of it.
Yeah.
There's lots of clubs in that situation. It's that stick or twist thing, and I know Sharik, I think, is in the chat, and I totally get where he's coming from. I know he's kind of agreed with a lot of comments I've made before. It's almost like you said, George, the rug is being pulled away from underneath clubs who want to aspire to be better, and they can't twist on or risk on one or two bigger signings to take them to that next level because of this rule. And it's almost as if, like, a Newcastle, a Villa. I know Rachel mentioned about clubs that are spending now are ones that are sold big in the summer. So West Ham or Tottenham, even, they almost have to sell their best player on the basis that they can then reinvest that money to buy a couple of other players, or just satisfy the profit and sustainability rules. And that just seems so counterproductive, and so it just benefits again the teams that are already past that stage, the Liverpools and the Man Cities and the Arsenals. Because when you looked at that list, and that's even Tottenham and West Ham, like dwarfing Villa in terms of the turnover that they made. It's just crazy, and it almost shows you, like, it could even be to the detriment of a club to jump from nothing to Champions League, like Newcastle. They went from nothing to Champions League, and now look at the situation they're in. It's almost like you need to go Conference League, couple of seasons in the Europa League, and then go into the Champions League. But we all know football doesn't happen like that. We all know you have to take your opportunity when it comes.
That's
it. And just a point for you, sorry lads, just because Dempsey put this up, he said they shouldn't be allowed to punish club mid-season. They need to sort it in the summer. So basically, what he's trying to say is, rather than punishing teams in the middle of a season where, like Everton, for example, who were doing really well, they probably could have been in the top half and weren't for them point deductions. Rather than punish them in the mid-season, punish them in the summer, maybe going into the next season.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have done that in the past. It did seem strange as to why that case was answered and punished straight away, with the view that Everton would appeal it, and then why and then why Man City's was, obviously they've got the charges, and then it just left to carry on and carry on and carry on. It just seems, I know they're different cases. I don't know the details of them, but it just seems extremely strange that would happen.
Yeah.
George,
then,
what were you going to say, mate?
yeah,
Sorry,
I was
sorry,
just
Matt.
going to mention them about Newcastle. It's like what you've just said there is probably true, because I was under the impression before this all kicked off, like obviously Newcastle has been talk of Almiron going, Joe Linton going, Trippier going, and I'm thinking to myself, they've only had about a year of big expenditure. Before that, Mike Ashley wouldn't spend a cup of coffee on him, would he? So I'm thinking,
No.
like, what's that? What have Newcastle all of a sudden, gone so mad for? But I don't really understand the sustainability thing. But is it because they've gone from spending nothing to going crazy? Well, not going crazy, but spending a fair bit. And like you say, is it got to be a gradual process? But as you say, it's all designed just to keep the big boys where they are. I mean, it's not fair really, because Chelsea managed to do it they could spend whatever they wanted to make them the top club they are now. I mean, 25 years ago, Chelsea weren't the Chelsea now. Man City done it 10, 15 years ago. They were, a similar sized club to us, I'd say even smaller. And it just, I know this was all done on a vote, and I think we were one of only two clubs that voted against it, and the whole Premier League voted for it. So I guess you can't complain too much. But at the end of the day, this is tailor-made, lads. I'm telling you now, this is tailor-made to make Man United, to get them back to where they were. And that's eventually what will happen.
Well, in fairness, though, George, the revenue that Man United make is quite a lot. So their profit and sustainability, they'll probably get away with it due to revenue. Like, they are probably one of the biggest clubs in the world in terms of what they bring into the club. But obviously with their ownership and all that, like, obviously it's been changed now. But you can see, even though they've brought in so much money, you can see how quiet they are this month. They're obviously not risking things either. So that's just another point of factor to make. And when you brought up Chelsea, that was a very interesting point, because I think they spent over $1 billion in how quick, like, ridiculously pace to spend $1 billion, and they barely scraped. No, they finished bottom half, didn't they?
No, I think were they 10th in the end. I think.
Yeah, I think they scraped. Yeah, I think they scraped the top half, and no punishment. You spent $1 billion.
Well, it
how
was
quickly,
what
and
happened
you
is
just finished top half of the league. It's not like you won the league and you can go, right, fair enough, but you finished 10th and nothing. And I know there was a whole loophole with the player contracts.
That's it. And they changed the rule after they did it.
And it was the loophole. And Americans are very smart when it comes to their loopholes. They really are. Like,
see, that's been stopped now, isn't it? The
9 years
big contracts and that,
everything. So they were clever with it. And obviously now there's a rule now, you can't give 9-year contracts all this. You can only give up to 5, and you have to pay, I think, the transfer fee, I think, in 4 years or something, if that's off the top of my head. But like, Chelsea exploited such a loophole, and then all of a sudden FIFA were like, no more. And it's kind of going, well, there's no rule against it. So
to be fair, I think Villa did do that in the Championship when they sold the training ground or whatever to the
they sold Villa Park, didn't we?
We know we've got through loopholes. But look, I've got to get into comments. But great discussion there, and like it is one of those things that's hamstringing us with regards to that. We'll talk. There's a couple of questions on who we potentially bring in, which I'll ask you in a second, boys. But let's have a little look. Adam says, when are they changing the FFP rules? They're talking about the inflation thing, so that might happen next season. With regards to the level of inflation, because obviously
salary cap, isn't it?
Well, it's to do with, like, because you can't be more than 100. It's more than 30 million, isn't it, each season over 3 years, or 40 million or something. But because of the level of inflation, it's just got, that hasn't changed. So really, it should change with the level of inflation. So they're talking about that. Rod said Champions League would transform our club financially, and the players we can attract. Absolutely. Gary said West Ham and Spurs look ready to challenge us now. Unfortunately, maybe Spurs. Not too sure about West Ham, but we'll see.
Won't be right.
Michael said we should not get too down, and remember that Emery has been in charge for 15 months. Agreed. PJJ says progress comes in stages. Build, improve, consolidate. To keep up, we need 15 to 20 quality players, but that could take 2 or 3 seasons. David said, just wait, when Man City get done, league could be wide open. PJ says the system is set up to protect the big money. Absolutely. Gary said no one can do what City have ever done again, which is good, I suppose.
It isn't. It
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah, isn't.
In
Yeah,
some ways,
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah. Rachel said, I do think Spurs and West Ham will potentially be ahead of us come the end of the season. Um, in terms of I guess there's a few chats there about kind of mid-season punishments and stuff. Lewis says Micah Richards made a good point last week. FFP came in 11 years ago, and your limit 150 mil in the years. Players were cheaper 11 years ago. A good striker would cost you 25 million-ish back then, but now, yeah, exactly. It's inflation.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's 70 million plus. Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Luke says, I don't think it will happen, but would love Man City to get a points deduction for every season they cheated and have titles stripped off them. They would actually damage their global brand. Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
not
it
wrong,
won't happen,
That's a
mate.
very good point.
Yeah. Sharik says Chelsea were way ahead of the game with selling their youth players. They made some excellent sales to balance the books. Absolutely. Chelsea are completely upset the transfer market with their crazy prices. If at least they exploited the loophole, they do something good with the money. Yeah, it's just interesting. So yeah, hopefully we can kind of ride this out. It does, like you say, George, Martin, both of you, it says it feels like a real break in the season, and now we're kind of moving into this real second half of the season. It feels like almost
Yeah.
like a mini preseason into the second half. So just to finish up round up on the transfer front, a couple of people asking, if it was a choice, would it be Morgan Rogers or Jonathan Rowe? Now, my opinion, from what I've seen, I mean, Morgan Rogers kind of came up out of the blue. To be honest, I hadn't really paid any attention to him, obviously because Middlesbrough
Yeah.
not really pulling up any trees in the Premier League this season. Norwich maybe a little bit more high profile. Jonathan Rowe started the season off with a bang. Obviously two different players. But yeah, in terms of who would you prefer, Martin? Any choice over the two? Now you've maybe had a bit more of a closer look at them.
Yeah, I've had a closer look at them. I did watch the Chelsea Middlesbrough game, unfortunately. And fairness to Morgan Rogers, he did stand out well and done really well for his goal, of course. And then Jonathan Rowe. To be honest with you, I don't really know that much about Jonathan Rowe. Like, obviously, I only seen it today, and I kind of went, right, I'll watch the next Norwich game and get a better idea. But to be honest, my tip would be Morgan Rogers because I've seen a bit more of him over the last few days. Jonathan Rowe, of course, I've heard of the player. He's a young, exciting talent who's only 20 years of age, but at the same time, I haven't really watched like Norwich at all, so I can't exactly point out what his flaws are, what his specialties are, and all that. But I do like the look of Morgan Rogers. He looks like someone who can play in behind the striker, which I think that's somewhat we need at this minute in time. That obviously we've been crying out for. So for me, I would go with Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, physically, Morgan Rogers looks a little bit more, strong, robust,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Like
But he's
maybe
a
Johnson
different.
Rowe needs another year or two in the championship. I remember he's still only
Yeah,
20 years of age. So
yeah, yeah, and it could be one of them where we're trying to get ahead of a few clubs that are looking at him. I mean,
yeah, true.
I,
That could be another
I've
thing.
featured him a couple of times on the transfer talk. He's really burst onto the scene this season. I mean, the season before last, 22-23 season in the Championship, he only played 3 games. I think he was injured for like a huge part of that season. The
Yeah.
season in the Premier League, they had 21-22. He made 12 appearances in the Premier League. But this season, he's really caught fire. I mean, he's had 27 appearances. He scored 12 goals, and then he also scored one in the EFL Cup. So in total, he's had 31 appearances this season, scoring 13 goals. Now, at any level, as a 20-year-old from playing out wide,
It's incredible
predominantly,
numbers, yeah.
it's brilliant numbers, and I know he's on a real hot streak at the minute. George, I don't know if you're kind of really watched either of them too much. I'd say, admittedly, I've watched a little bit of Rowe in terms of like highlights and seen some of the goals he scored. As I say, Rogers only really came onto the radar when we were potentially interested in him. It's good that we're linked to exciting young players, but have you got any preference? Do you know anything too much about either?
Yeah, I can't say I've really watched either. I obviously saw the Rogers consolation for Borough the other night. nice finish into the corner. The interesting thing about him is that I saw he's come through the West Brom Academy, and over the last 2-3 years we've absolutely pillaged them. So to me, this comes across more of a club signing. Someone that's probably been looked at over the last 2-3 years, where we've signed Ira Bonham and all them. We took from West Brom a lot of youth lads. Because I was under the impression that Emery and Monchi, it seemed almost exclusive. They were looking at Spanish players, didn't it? So these couple of links all of a sudden now, the whole transfer strategy seems to have changed a little bit, maybe as to do with everything we've just said about the lack of transfer funds. Maybe the idea is now to try and sign a few younger ones in the January and keep your kind of powder dry. And then maybe if there's room again in the summer, that's when if you can buy one big player. But I wouldn't be surprised. This whole model that since the owners have come in when we're in the Championship was designed to sell top players at their peak money. So I'm still waiting for one of the big boys to go. Not that I want it to happen, but I think that will be the end game to keep us going.
It will eventually happen. Yeah,
It will happen. I mean, a Kamara or a Louise,
Martinez,
or
it's one of them, isn't it?
or a
Watkins,
Konsa or Martinez. Or
we'll
even
probably
two
make
of
the
them
most money out of
will go.
Kamara because, of course, he signed on a free.
Well, in terms of profit, yeah. Generally. Gary says Rowe could be the next Eze. Adamski said we do need Rogers' height in the box. I will ask the questions that David and a few others have asked as well. Rachel said it's for FFP and for players wanting the move. Sometimes it has to happen. Yeah, agreed. Luke says confident we haven't heard third bid is rejected or worried it's gone quiet and is Rowe plan B. Could be a bit of everything.
Yeah,
there, mate.
that's
Yeah,
be a fair.
could be a bit.
Be a good
It
point
could
to
be.
make.
We're saying we're after Jonathan Rowe now to put pressure on Middlesbrough. Who knows?
Do you think either of these boys would come in and actually make a difference to our first team, like before the end of the season?
I think it would add a competitive nature to some players in terms of like, right, this lad's coming in, and some lads could react, right, you're not taking my position. Doesn't matter that you've signed for this club or how much you might have paid for you and everything else. But I think it'll add competitiveness to the squad. I don't think they'll. Yeah, I don't think they'll come in and start straight away, hit the ground running. Of course, that would be an ideal world, but I think if you want to be realistic about it, obviously, if they're coming in, they're going to have to bide their time, work their way into the team, because you have to remember how long it takes Tielemans to walk in, and look how good he is. So it's not going to be an overnight thing where someone just signs and that's it. They're starting, done. So they'll have to bide their time. So I think they'll be brought in to add a competitive nature to the team.
Yeah. Gary said he thinks Emery likes Rodgers' attitude as well. Duran is better, but his temperament is well dodgy. We'll put a pin in that. We'll talk Duran in a second. Richo, Everton fans in the house. Great to have you on board, mate. He's saying hopefully a win against Luton at home and into the 5th round draw. Yeah, hopefully that's for you, but mate. And then we beat Chelsea tomorrow, which we're going to get into. So yeah, a few people talking about kind of Louise going in the summer. Apparently Dendonk has gone as well now. Just in terms of, Luke says he thinks Rowe has supreme balance, jinx his way past players with ease, but feel we need another defensive midfielder more, and time is running out. Yeah, absolutely. PJJ says selling at a profit could be part of the Monchi Unai strategy, but buy young, improve them, then sell them on if they don't become integral to the squad. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Just very quickly off the back of this, and I think people have answered the question in there already. But George, I think a few people questioning the fact that we're buying Morgan Rogers. We're looking to buy Morgan Rogers. We're interested in Jonathan Rowe, but we sold Jaden Philogene, we sold Cameron Archer, and we sold Aaron Ramsey. Now, again, is this kind of a drawback of this whole FFP model in the fact that you kind of ironically have to sell your players that came out of your academy, but buy players back in that are through other clubs' academies?
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's like it's ruining the romance of football, isn't it? The Jack Grealish, the Jacob Ramsey, they're one of our own. It's going to be a thing of the past before long. Because the only way you can sort of, without selling your best players, the next option seems to be selling your promising youth players, and then, like you say, then buying other people's. It's a strange old way. Again, I think it's a loophole, isn't it? And it's something that probably wasn't thought about when this system was brought in. But yeah, that is what's happening, and it's not just us that's doing it, is it? It's happening everywhere.
Yeah, it's just mad. It's just mad. Rich in the house. Don't worry, you're late, mate. Great to have you on board. Rowe looks awesome, he says. Espen's in the house as well. Great to have you in, mate. I believe Rogers has the toolbox to come in and flourish right away. We all know how fast Emery makes players tick. He's strong, explosive, very athletic, smart, football IQ. Intrigued by this one. Interesting.
Clearly, he's
Interesting.
done his research.
Yeah, very much so. And we love your shouts on X or Twitter. Rachel said,
Yeah.
"This is Tim's time to make his mark on the team. If he could do it like JJ, then he would save us a lot of money. Absolutely." Gary says Martinez is the only one who's irreplaceable for him. Espen said, "If you have the tools, Emery will make him tick." Sharik in with a £2 super chat. First of all, thank you very much,
Class.
mate. That is
Nice
much
one.
20 pence
appreciated.
split.
Right. This is a yes or no answer for all of us. So, Martin, you first. Do we get Champions League football this year? Yes or no?
Yes.
George.
Oh, there's one problem with this, boys.
No, yes or no answer.
Yes or no? No,
Oh.
no politicians here.
Fucking hell.
Yes or no? That's it. Don't beat around the bush.
Oh, yes.
Good man. That's all we need
I'm
to know.
going to say yes. I know what you were going to say as the caveat. I know what you were going to say. If fifth place gets it.
You know that.
I knew
As
it.
Simon Cowell would say, you've got 3 yeses.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yes, yes. Sharik in that. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, moving through. So, guys, we've got over 70 people watching, which is fantastic. Please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're so close to 3,300. We're on the road to 4K, etc., etc. Yeah, if you want to support the channel, even more by becoming a member, click the join button. It's just $1.99 a month to become an official Villa Park Pod follower, or super chat, hit the $sign, etc., etc. But yeah, support is amazing. Like, subscribe, help us continue to grow. So yeah, moving towards kind of tomorrow night's game, Friday night football. Emery's press conference talked around injuries, so we're looking like Luka Dean's almost back fit. Pau Torres had a little setback, and apparently John Duran is now injured for a few weeks with a hamstring strain. Now, me and you, Martin, cynical, you and I, were a little bit dubious over this with regards to the potential Chelsea transfer. What are your thoughts about this John Duran injury? Before we get to the Torres and Dina injuries, but what are your thoughts on that? Just leading into the Chelsea game.
I think John Duran's agent's been watching too much Ted Lasso. No, I think it's very coincidental, isn't it, that a big team. But don't get me wrong, regardless of what people think of Chelsea, how poor they are, they're still a big club. That there's now an injury, and it's kind of like, I'm a bit sore, Gaffer. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, because there's someone interested you, isn't it? It's no. I've just got a tight one. Just have a Charlie horse. And you're kind of going, yeah, right. Like, I can't help but laugh at it because you're kind of like, there was too much wood around it, and all of a sudden you're injured. Like, now, if he is physically injured, fair enough, by all means, and it was just potluck of a coincidence. But if there's nothing wrong with you, and all of a sudden you've made a move for Chelsea, because if you have a hamstring strain, you're going to fail that medical straight away. 100%, you're not passing the medical. So if there's any wood, John Duran's having a medical and he fails it, I can guarantee you Villa Twitter will go mental. 100%.
Yeah, I just think it's almost whether it's Villa, it doesn't really matter really. It could be Villa that's made that decision to say, look, he's not going to be in the squad for tomorrow. There's too much speculation around him. We're
That could be
protecting
another one,
our
yeah.
potential investment with regards to the money that we could get for him. We've got a deal between such and such and such and such if this goes through. But then again, he could well be injured for a few weeks. It's been said it's a few weeks that he could actually be injured, George. Like, I mean, your thoughts on it. It just seems so strange that it's like ironic that the rumors about Chelsea. You said this did seem to have something in it when the Telegraph are reporting it, all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden now he's injured.
And just before you start, George, sorry.
Go on.
George knew what he was doing, by the way, with me and you, Rich, when he put that picture into the group chat. He was stirring the pot and hoping 2 people would bite, and he got 2 people. Yeah, you knew what you were doing. You knew exactly what you were doing. Go on. Sorry, George.
Sorry. Yeah, this one, there's just too much noise going around this one for there not to be nothing true. I mean, I'm the one, normally it's you lot that are getting all excited about speculation and transfers, and I'm normally one sort of calming everyone down. But nah, it's just everywhere you look, it's Duran. He's going West Ham wanting, Chelsea wanting. Oh, sorry, that was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that.
How long have you had that one there?
Mate, that was completely random, I promise. But yeah, there's too much noise. Is it the facts? Does he actually think he should be playing? Does he think he's better than Ollie Watkins? I mean, he's only a young boy. But, as Emery said the other week, the plan was for Duran when we signed him. Emery is not giving him any bollocks. He's played him as much as he said he was going to play him. He's only like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Like you say, Martin, maybe it's the agent that's just filling his head with big ideas and big dreams. He's going to be a good player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But, there's a lot that comes with it. All the fieriness and the unpredictable nature of his game, the constant yellow cards every time he comes on. You just, he's a wild card, isn't he? In 3-4 years.
What he should do? Like, he should probably call Carney Chukwuemeka and ask him how young players get on when they move to Chelsea.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I've not seen Carney in how long.
Yeah, he did have a big injury, Mark, didn't he?
Is that
fairness, but even before that, he wasn't really playing that much.
Yeah, the problem is that agents won't really worry about that. They'll say you're going to double your wages, you're going to, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to be in London, etc., etc. Now, look, we are speculating here. We don't know, but like I say,
we don't know the ins and outs.
It seems strange, but yeah. But anyway, there's talk of, swap deals, all this, potential players coming in, moving out. It would just be good to kind of draw a line under it and say, look, he's either staying with us or he is, or we're looking to move on, because we just need to draw a line on it. And I think it'd be better for him as well, just to concentrate on his football, help Villa like move into the top, challenge for the top four, and just really put, really kind of put a line in the sand against it. And I don't know. It's just a bit of a soap opera, but maybe it's the press as well, just making a story out of nothing. Who knows? Generally in the chat, people saying, there's obviously the Broha talk as well. Generally in the chat, people saying they wouldn't, swap him for Broha. Man with the golden gun said, "I'm glad he's injured." In quotes, he has the potential, and selling him to a direct competitor is madness. So faking the injury and see how he progresses until summer, and probably hire a behavioural therapist too. Yeah. Adamski has come from the MLS and thinks he's going to play in the starting 11 in the Prem. Sounds a bit crazy, to be honest. Exactly. Gary said Chelsea will pay top money, I suppose. Michael said he loves Duran, but if he's not happy, sell him. Espen said Duran has huge potential, but he's like a child and an untamed tiger. Needs to be moulded by daddy figure like Emery. Exactly.
Is there a case of he's... Sorry, Rich, continue that last one.
No, I can't sing that. That's fine. Go on, mate.
Is there a case of he's kind of... Who's the best player example? Like a Ravel Morrison. Someone who's got the talent, he's got the ability. He was considered, obviously, the best out of the youngsters with Pogba and Jesse Lingard and all them, but attitude-wise, is stunk. And he's moved from club to club to club to club and tried to get what he wants. Is that the case with Duran, possibly? Because obviously Emery's made him a promise. He stuck to his word. He hasn't done anything that's out of the ordinary by saying you're not playing this game or that game. But when he's given him his minutes, there was games where he even started or got more minutes compared to 10, 15.
Yeah. I think he's got pump, isn't he, Martin? Because he's been subbed in quite a few of the games where he was like in the Europa games and that, and I think that's what's pissed him off.
Yeah, but like you have to build your time though, because he's only 20 years of age, and when you've got Ollie Watkins that's banging him in, he's got double digits of goal contributions at the moment. Like you just can't compete with that. He's more
Mm.
experienced, so he has to bide his time.
Yeah, I know. I know Sam would say like you like that ambition, you like that, but it's just going to be tempered a little bit. But look, we don't
Yeah,
know. And look, if he stays with the Villa, we'll back him. We want him to do well. If he moves on, fine. We trust United. It's one of those things. It's got to be, it's got to be done. But it does seem like he just needs to bide his time a little bit and just
yeah,
learn, develop, keep going. He's at a good club. Just keep going and just maybe get some new people around you who are going to kind of keep your feet on the ground. But anyway, moving from Duran, I guess Pau Torres, George, little bit of a blow there with regards to a setback for him. And then as I say, Luca Dean maybe not quite fit enough yet. We will get into kind of the predicted lineups, but yeah, Pau Torres is a bit of a blow, isn't it?
It's a massive blow, to be honest, because I think, as we've all seen and we've probably said on here throughout the season, Torres has actually become completely pivotal to the way we attack and the way we've been toothless since he's been out of the team. We're all saying about Kamara being missing. That was a blow too, but style wise, Torres starts all the moves, doesn't he? He's the one who opens
mm,
up the gaps. I heard you boys on air the other week, especially you and Kev Martin, sort of. I think it was after the Everton game, sort of bemoaning our little lack of creativity and saying we couldn't open up teams. But I think that's the reason why he was starting. His passes from centre back were sending the attackers on their way in one pass, and we completely lost that now. And now teams are sitting back and just going, "Well, come on, in Villa, what have you got? Try and play around us." And no one has got his sort of passing range for me and his intelligence. So I think we're missing him more as an attacking point of view than we are his defensive work.
Yeah,
mm.
So the sooner
agreed,
you get him back,
agreed.
the better, boys, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Longley Martin has been a pretty able deputy. He seems to be getting used to what we're doing and how we want to play, but he's not the same as as Torres. And also, when you factor in Ezri Konsa playing mostly at right back, it does seem to leave us a little bit disjointed.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Lingley has done a great job. I know I wasn't exactly his biggest fan at the start of the year, but obviously he's come leaps and bounds from where he is, and he's doing. Funny enough, he actually is doing the same thing as Pau Torres is doing, but like I like that he sees the pass, he sees the idea, he's going for it. But the execution just isn't the same as Torres, where the weight of the ball is perfect for the striker or the midfielder playing in between the lines, or him pressing into that midfield role and being able to shift in with the other defenders coming in. Lingley doesn't exactly do that, so that's probably the only difference. It's a big difference in terms of like when you're playing the game, but it's a small difference in terms of when you're like watching it. But I think, like, obviously, yeah, it's one of them, like, because he's done really well, and it's just not the same. So it just doesn't tick the same, And I think I do think that he obviously not trying to spoil, but I do think he will start tomorrow. But how well he'll do, I don't know, and hopefully,
I think he's a bit
he,
slow, Mark.
yeah, he is. I think he is a bit slow off the mark because Torres sees it straight away. Where Lingley kind of looks up, he sees it, thinks about it for a second, and then does it. But
I
by
think
that time,
defensively slow as
could be
well.
offside or something.
Mm. Yeah, it's a trust thing as well, isn't it? Like, it's always split seconds, and players will move into a space a little bit quicker if like you can see like when Pau Torres on the ball, players will move into a space a little bit quicker because they trust that the ball's going to get there at that time. Whereas maybe
Mm,
with Longley, maybe it'll come with a bit more time, but it just doesn't seem to be quite there, and
no.
it's a little bit more difficult.
I
Loads
think
in
he's
the
done all
chat
right in
talk.
Europe, Rich, but not in the Premier
Yeah,
League. I think it's
yeah,
big
yeah,
for him.
exactly. And I mean, I was getting so frustrated against Everton, and it's not necessarily that the players that they weren't playing badly. It was just the speed at which we were doing things that was so slow and
Yeah,
so ponderous. No one was running with the
we
ball,
weren't
no one was
ruthless enough in
taking
the
any
final third of
risks.
the pitch. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just so frustrating. And into that, and a lot of people in the chat talk about Emi Buendia, and obviously he's done an interview today, talk about his kind of frustrations and how he's stayed around the club to kind of keep his mental state in a
Mhm.
good place. And and it does feel like, as I say, it's such a shame because he seemed to be getting to a real good place in pre-season, in terms of his role in the team and how he was going to be used by Emery. And it does feel like at this time of the season, when we've done so well, teams are sitting back, that Buendia would be that ideal person in that team to kind of unlock defenses or try the pass that maybe other players wouldn't try. And it's just so
Yeah.
frustrating that he's not in the team.
Yeah,
the
funny that you
difference,
say
Chloe-
that. Like, sorry, George, go on ahead.
Sorry, all I was going to say was when Buendia was fit before, he's never been in a Villa team that's sort of having 60-70% of the ball like we do now. The Buendia, when he was there, we were probably getting 45%. And, and a lot of the time he was getting frustrated, wasn't he? He was quite petulant, getting annoyed, he's getting kicked. But now, the way that team is now, it looks, I know it's easy to say when someone's not playing, they suddenly become twice as good as they were.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it does look set up for a Buendia. And the way he started pre-season, it's such a shame, for him to get that injury, because I honestly think this was going to be his year. I don't know how good that year would have been, but I think this would have been his big year at Villa and a chance to really sort of say this is what you paid £33 million for.
Yeah,
And
especially after his
just
performance
really
against
unfortunate for him.
Newcastle in pre-season.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it was unbelievable. Like I think that Everton game I felt was suited to Buendia, because Buendia loves playing against Everton. Like you think about it, since we've been back in the Premier League, before he signed, but when he signed, he just seemed to score against Everton, like every time.
Every time, yeah.
It's madness, because his header, the one that he got when we won 1-0 away from home, the 2-0 last season away from home, the 2-1 at home. Ever since he signed, he just keeps scoring against Everton. Like it was suited for him, and against low blocks, I think Buendia really does suit a team against a low blocks. It's not just in terms of unlocking the pass for a low block, but maybe perhaps creating space, moving just somewhere different, and it could shift the defender
Open it
over, and
up.
then all of a sudden you could have Leon
Definitely.
Bailey just going over the top. It's just something like that, something so simple.
Still no talk on his return yet, though. I didn't see it in that.
No,
interview.
I don't think he might. I'd say April, but then again, at the same time, you have to get yourself back into training. He probably won't be full training until May, so maybe the last game of the season, just for a.
Would it be
few
worth it
minutes.
then, though?
Yeah,
That's
you're
the
looking at
thing.
next
wouldn't.
season, I
You
think,
got to
aren't you?
think. You got to think if he's going to target a time frame, it would be probably last 10 games of the season. If he was going to be anywhere near anything
Yeah.
other than that, you're probably thinking leave it till next season. But we'll see. We shall see. Just quickly, before we not quickly, before we get into your predicted lineups, just a word on Chelsea, George. Obviously, they had the defeat against Middlesbrough away from home. I guess Chelsea fans lost their heads in terms of that. But then they bounced back, absolutely smashed them 6-1. I guess it's sometimes difficult to read too much into those games because they obviously, coming into it with, they really wanted to show what they were made of, that momentum coming into it. But that game would have given them a lot of confidence in terms of that attacking threat and everything like that. I mean, it is going to be a tough game us facing this Chelsea team right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when the draw come out, obviously the initial reaction is, oh, for God's sake, it's another big 6 team away. Then you think, oh no, hold on, but it's Chelsea. But at the same time, I think Chelsea's one of the worst teams you could have drawn in this because they know that they're too far gone in the league now to really come back and make an impact. They might nick a top 6 maybe if they really got on a good run, but they're not in Europe this year, are they? So they've got a clean ride to go for the cups, in my opinion. They're in the final of one already. And if Chelsea were to suddenly come out of this season with a League Cup and an FA Cup, it's going to mask over the disaster that's gone before that. So I think this is a really tough game. I think they're 5 wins in 6 now at Stamford Bridge. So the momentum's starting to finally come their way, and it's about time really with the players they've got. Because let's face it, they've never had a bad team, have they? They just haven't been able to knit it all together, and it's been probably too many changes too soon, too much youth, too much change. Too much of the old guard all going at once. They've almost done like a 3-year transition in about the space of 6 months. And obviously it's taken its time, but you're looking at the money they've spent. They should have a bloody good team, shouldn't they? And I'm a bit concerned about this game, boys.
Absolutely. Martin, with regards to what George just said there, who's kind of most concerning for you from their point of view? I know obviously you know Sterling, Cole Palmer, Fernandez, Caicedo. They like you could reel the names off, and then one or two of them are playing really well at the minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be concerned about Cole Palmer. I mean, like he's obviously their creative player at this minute, and obviously the nickname for him is Cole Palmer because he's obviously does this little celebration here. But I think he is one to be really worried about because I think if he's not on it, that the entire team's not on it. Because obviously he makes everything tick in that number 10 role. He goes out right, he goes out left. He even does a stint up top whenever there's movement happening. And history has shown where Emery doesn't really concern himself with the FA Cup. I think he's more concerned about Europe. That's his specialty. Spanish managers or European managers, whenever they come in, they love European cups. So they're not really too fond of their own domestic cups. Like you've seen Spanish managers in Spain not even worried about the Copa del Rey. They're concerned about Europa League, Champions League, Conference Leagues. They love European
Has
competitions.
he won
So
any domestic cups in Spain? Do you know, Mark? Emery?
I
Don't
think
know
he
if he
has, yeah. But
don't
like,
know if he won them in Spain. He definitely won the domestic cups in France, though.
yeah, he won one with France with PSG. But in fairness,
Mm.
that's PSG. You should be winning
Yeah,
domestic cups
yeah,
with
yeah.
them, like. But with like he's shown it showed with Arsenal. Like he wasn't. Remember when I know I'm bringing it back to Arsenal, and I'm sorry for everyone doing that, but it showed when he was so comfortable at the top four, and he went for the Europa League instead. Like that's where I'm kind of like, this is a bad time to get Chelsea because obviously they're a good club. They want to be going for stuff, as George pointed out. And then for us, if we got knocked out of the FA Cup tomorrow, it wouldn't be the end of the world because we have the Conference League and we have then the league just to focus on, which would then could become a pivotal point for our season. Just to have two cups to focus on means less games, more rest in between. So yeah, I think obviously just going back to the point, I think Cole Palmer would be the issue, and as well wouldn't be the end of the world in my opinion if we were to be knocked out tomorrow. It
We
wouldn't.
will see
It
what the
just
meltdown on Twitter comes out. But
yeah.
yeah. Cool. We'll talk kind of Villa in a second and how we might approach it. But let's look at the predicted lineups now. We didn't. You boys didn't see each other's lineups before this show. And actually, we found out you've gone for pretty exactly the same lineup. So, Martin, this one's yours.
Mm.
George, this one's yours with a little bit more into positions. Um, how yeah, I guess George, just you start off in terms of talking it through in terms of like why you made the choices. And some of it's kind of necessity, but yeah, strong lineup though.
Well, yeah, I just think this game, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, the way that the fixtures were falling, that January wasn't too hectic for us. And I think we've just had how long was it been since we played? What, 10 days ish?
Everton. When was
Sunday
Everton?
to 7, about 12.
12 days. So, I've gone for a strong
Yeah,
lineup
12.
there. One, because I heard Emery say that he wasn't going to disrespect it and he was going to go with his strongest side. I think he would like to make a few more changes, but really the only changes I look at that you could really make there, you could bring Carlos in, or you could bring Dean or Moreno. But other than that, really,
Dean's injured.
yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah. So okay,
Yeah,
where are the changes you could make? Like Duran's
yeah,
injured, so Watkins will
yeah.
play. Ramsey's injured, so Tielemans will play.
Maybe Zaniolo. Yeah,
Zaniolo's an option, I guess, but really there isn't much below the surface. So I think, yeah, he's going to go in with that one. I mean, we've got, was it Newcastle Tuesday? So you're looking at what, a 4-day turnover. That's nothing we've not been used to throughout the season. So I think we can do that and not be too concerned.
Yeah, Martin, you pick the same side. How do you think Emery would approach this then? So obviously you've kind of opinion is that maybe it's not the priority for us. I think Emery's kind of hinted at that, but said it's important for us to win for the supporters in terms of legacy and stuff like that. So kind of getting on side with the supporters. But how do you think he approaches this? Because when we played them in the league, it was it was a kind of, we didn't play that real high line. It was more kind of soak up the pressure and then wait till later on in the game when we got a goal kind of on the break. So do you think it'd be the similar approach?
Yeah, I think so because obviously Emery he plays a certain way against certain teams. So obviously the last time he played a bit deeper against Chelsea, so I think he might go for the same way. Now, if he goes for the high line, I think it would be brave because I think Chelsea can spot that over the top ball, which they kind of well known for at this moment of time. So I think dropping back a few yards would be okay. Just have the defenders a bit close to the keeper. Obviously, the keeper's starting position needs to be good in Emi Martinez. And just soaking up the pressure, obviously, with the midfield four, I think is perfect. Like their pressing is very good when we don't have the ball. And just catch them on the counter, getting the breakaways. Like obviously we've got the most breakaways for stats this year. So I think it's really suited for us if we sit back in terms of just taking in the pressure. Obviously don't park the bus, of course, but just setting ourselves up for the counter and the breakaway. Then I can see us getting past the round. But if we play a really high line, I think we'll struggle.
Yeah, yeah. People asking about VAR. Yes, it is being used tomorrow. It was a
Yeah.
mistake, as Rachel said on their website. So VAR is there tomorrow. George, a lot of people in the chat talk about Musa Diaby saying it's his time now to show, and obviously he's had a bit of a break because he looked a bit jaded, looked a bit low on confidence. Do you see Musa Diaby kind of come into the fore in this, second half of the season, starting tomorrow?
Well, I hope so. Obviously, I've not picked him in the lineup there, and that's kind of
Yeah,
just because of what we're saying
maybe
there.
could be match winner.
It's all right,
Maybe,
George. Neither did I. It's
Yeah.
yeah. But the only I've said this a few times. I mean, I just think because we play that system now with the centre back at right back, you're finding that Diaby's not being fed that much, and there's not much coming down that right hand side. So I don't think whether it be Diaby, whether it be Bailey over there, that's what's going to happen. Most of the attacks come down the left, and I personally think that's made us a little bit too predictable. And I'd like to see us sort of maybe change that up and maybe try it the other way around and try and either if he's insistent on doing 3 centre backs, then try one at left back a few times as well. Just to try and change it up a little bit and try and bring Diaby back in because we've spent a hell of a lot of money on him and he started like an absolute steam train this season. And I was thinking, God, we've got some player here. This could be one of the best players we've ever seen. And it's slowly but surely tailed off and he's not really been overly involved. So I just think a little bit of variation in the style, and there's every chance he could come good again because there's a good player in there.
Absolutely. Steve 24/7 with a good comment there. We're in the top 3 teams for subs impact in the game, which is interesting. So that shows the changes that Emery makes, and I guess like the weapons that we've got off the bench as well, which is good to see. Before get the predictions in, so guys, get your predictions into the chat. Do make sure you have hit the like button as well. We've still got over 60 people watching. We've had over 70 tonight as well, which is fantastic for a Thursday night. So thank you all for that. But yeah, do please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel, and get your score predictions in the chat. Just before we do that, Martin, obviously Chelsea Friday, coming to Newcastle at home on the Tuesday night in the Premier League. How do you think a win will kind of impact that? Obviously it's great to win. Do you think that will really, if we get that result and get into the 5th round, do you think that will give the players great confidence going into the Tuesday night game?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting to the next round of the cup and coming up against a team that's not really on form, where injuries have kind of not gone their way, I think will be a huge boost for us. Obviously, we've had a good break now. Players should be refreshed. Obviously, some who were in form and then kind of dipped down due to fatigue and everything else who should be well rested. So I think a win here would definitely boost confidence for lads going into the game against Newcastle.
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait for that one, but I'm
Oh,
excited for
I know
tomorrow.
you can't wait for that one.
Well, I can and I can't. You know what I mean? I can and I
Yeah.
can't because
If
I just
if we lose to Newcastle, pull the blinds.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, a few score predictions coming in. Duncan said the first goal is key, and also says 2-1 Villa. Deontay says Chelsea 1, Aston Villa 1, so going to go
Into a
to a
replay.
replay. The man with the golden gun says 2-1 Villa as well. Dunk said it's Watkins that needs the form improvement. Absolutely, he's a purple patch player. He needs to get that purple patch back. Gary said just can't see us winning, especially after they just won 6-1. So he's going to go 2-1 Chelsea. Steve 24/7 is saying 2-0 Villa. Martin, what are you saying for tomorrow's night's game? Score and scorers, if any, for Villa.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Villa. Scorers for us are gonna be Ollie Watkins. He does like a goal against Chelsea. And John McGinn.
Like it. I like it. Sharik says 1-0 Chelsea. Adamski says 4-2 Villa. That'd be a classic cup tie, that. George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is a tough one. And the thing that's really going in our favour is the fact that we've just had 12 days off and they've just played Tuesday night. So this is a very quick turnaround from them. If we'd have both been playing at the same time, I think I'd have been looking at a Chelsea win here. But obviously, they've gone full pelt Tuesday night to get into a cup final. You know, they've done it easily, to be fair to them, and done it in style. But I think, as you said, Martin, I think you got a very good point. Sit deeper, mate. Not just against them. I think we should just sit deeper away from home in general.
Yeah.
I just think we've wasted ourselves away most of this season. But that's a story for another day. I just think, yeah, just sit a little bit deeper, try and contain, and do what we did in the league. Just frustrate them. The crowd will get the hump, you know, whether in good form or not. That's just the home crowd, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think with the strength in depth that we've got, I think we can just slowly wear them down and go on and win the game. So I'm going to go for what was it, 1-0 in the league, wasn't it? I think I'll go 2-1 then. I'll go 2-1, same as you, Mark.
Okay.
I'll go for
Who do you
Watkins
think's gonna score?
and let's go for a Watkins brace. Why not?
Oh, wow.
Nice. I thought he was going to go John McGinn. George was fully copying me today with the
was,
lineup,
wasn't
the score, and the scorers. The whole
You
shebang
copied
was
me on the
happening.
lineup.
George, you couldn't just let us have a moment, no, on the podcast.
Rich says 3-1 Villa. Paul says Chelsea 1, Aston Villa 3 as well. Watkins 2 and Tielemans. Do you know what? I've got a draw in my mind.
That wouldn't be too bad.
I've got 2-2 draw in my head. For whatever
What's the gut
reason.
saying, though? What's the gut? Listen to the gut.
2-2 draw, I'm saying. I just can't shake that feeling it's going to be a draw. So yeah, I'm going to say 2-2 draw. Watkins will score, and I think Bailey will score. But I think we'll draw 2-2. Lots of people predicting a Villa win. Paul's gone 3-1 Villa or 8-1. He loves it. Lee says Watkins needs a goal. Villa 1-0. Rod says Chelsea 1, Aston Villa 3. DRB 2 assists and a goal. Like it. Gary says Desmond 2-2 as well. Yeah, me and Gary on the same page. Yeah, so look, it's football's back tomorrow night. Really good to play Friday night. There's a few games on tomorrow as well. I think Bournemouth have won. I know. Craig was in the chat earlier. I bet he's buzzing. They were 5-0 up at half time. So yeah, great for him to get the result as well. But yeah, hopefully Villa can make it into the 5th round. That'd be really good for us because there's some big ties in this round. There's some, there'll be plenty of Premier League teams that will go out in this round as well. So if we get this round won, then we've got and we get a good draw in the next round. In the 5th round, we've got a good chance of getting into the quarterfinals. So and then it's anybody. So look, it'd be great to get a really good cup run. And as you said, Martin, it'd be really good for us to get the win to take us into the Newcastle game, back into Premier League action as well, which would be fantastic. It'll kind of, really, if we get the win there, which obviously we'll preview later on across the week, it will be fantastic to kind of kickstart our season as well, to kind of put the doubts away. But yeah, starts back tomorrow. Boys, great chat. Really good to be back on the pod chatting match previews and all that. I know I've done plenty of transfer talk shows and I've done lunchtime lives just to keep me interesting. But there's nothing better than talking actual matches. So it's great to have you boys back on the chat and on the channel. Thank you all of you in the comments as well. You guys make the show. do make sure you hit the like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We'll be back with match reaction tomorrow night. Any transfer rumours as well, any transfers that are done, I'm sure I'll jump on and do a quick video as well. We've got Newcastle previews as well coming up, all the stuff on the channel, so make sure you stay tuned for the channel. Once again, boys, thank you very much. Thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.
Villa the Boo.